Hubbardston Select Board on December 16th, 2024 at 6:33 p.m. And is there anyone here for open session? Okay, and we'll go to Katie for the announcements.
Alright, so we have one more weekend for the Hubbardston Light Fight. If you haven't gone around, there is paper maps at the one-stop shop. There's Google links and there's Google online listings of addresses. And then there is a voting link, which you will be up and running through next Monday, the 23rd, because I always give an extra day to vote, just in case you're out on Sunday night and, you know, the kids are just, and you gotta just vote the next day. So on the end of 23rd, I will be closing down the voting and we will announce the winners first thing on the 24th. But yeah, so this is the last weekend. Check out the Light Fight. Vote for your favorites. There's lots of good things out there. I've been around a few times. There's lots of good stuff out there. And then there's other things along the path too that you'll notice. So, coming up this coming weekend as well, due to some unforeseen circumstances, Santa is going to do Brunch with Santa this weekend from 10 to noon at the Hubbardston Center School. We'll have a bunch of little snack stuff. I got a donation, thank you very much to Walmart and the PTO, a whole bunch of little fun kid reindeer, elf, all kinds of different things, headbands that the kids can have. We'll have lots of snacks, we'll have treats, we'll be making reindeer food, and of course the big guy himself will be there with a very nice professional backdrop and rugs and everything else. So come on down for a Brunch with Santa, bring your own cameras. We do ask a $20 donation per family, not per person, to come in just to help pay for everything there, and any excess goes into the special events fund. But yeah, 10 to noon at the Hubbardston Center School. Then, if you miss that, or you don't have a lot of littles and your teenagers are still sleeping, later on in the evening at the bandstand, Santa will be making an appearance from 5 to 7, courtesy of the Hubbardston Lions Club. And usually they have like some kind of crayon books or something to give away. But anyway, he'll be up there in the middle of the bandstand. It's great for teenagers, the ones that kind of like mom wants a picture with Santa and the kids don't necessarily want to go up there. They did a lovely job at the bandstand lighting it up. So it's a good spot to get your pictures. And again, that is later that evening on the 21st from 5 to 7. And then following the first thing coming up in January, we have on January 3rd at 7 p.m. the Lions will be having their first meat raffle of the year at the Hubbardston Rod and Gun, and also we'll be launching for special events. I just got to make sure the pond fills before I launch it because I'm worried about that. Is frozen assets, and that you'll be able to take guesses on when the outhouse will fall through the ice, and those will be able to be found at the retail businesses in town. So, yep, that's it.
All right. Any comments? Anyone else have any announcements at this time?
What time is the Lions meat raffle?
That is at 7 p.m. on January 3rd.
Okay.
Tricia, do you have anything?
Yes.
Tuesday? Go ahead.
Like last year.
Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Santa's coming to Storytime.
There you go.
And this Thursday night, we are having an adult program we're making book trees out of magazines and retired books. Some books will be harmed in the making of this craft.
They're being retired.
Both
okay.
Events are free, and there is no registration necessary. Just come as you are. If you have some old books that you would like to fold and turn into a beautiful tree, feel free to bring them along.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? All right, then we will move to our first item tonight, which is the recommendations on OPEB, trust fund, and funding strategies. We have Mr. Parker Loring's president of Odyssey Advisors, who's meeting with us tonight virtually. I'll hand it over to Nate first, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Board. Parker, thank you for joining us this evening. Just as a little bit of a background here, you must remember the Select Board authorized us to use $3,500 of ARPA money to get Odyssey Advisors. Mary, do you want to come join us? You can sit there if you want. To do an actuarial study of what the town's liability would be to take on OPEB, other post-employment benefits, to eventually offer retiree health care benefits. A benefit that we do not offer and are one of a handful at this point communities in the Commonwealth that do not. Doing this study committed us to nothing. We are just looking at the numbers and talking about what different paths forward would mean. I am hoping that tonight, instead of going kind of and diving fully in, we can digest what Parker's going to say, do our research, and have a meeting after the new year where we discuss what the paths moving forward could potentially be, or what are the best options for the town are. And with that, Parker Elmore.
Well, thank you for having me out. Yeah, OPEB is an exciting topic. Actuarial stuff never gets old, said by an actuary. No, so the deal here is most communities in Massachusetts, I'd say 98% or thereabouts of communities in Massachusetts offer healthcare benefits to the retirees after their working lifetime. So you work for the town for, 20, 30, 40 years, and when you leave, you'll get health care for the rest of your life. Generally, the town, if you offer the benefit, the town must pay at least 50% of the cost. In your part of the state, that tends to be the norm, somewhere in that general range. If I get out toward Boston, it ends up being closer to 80%. But again, your part of the state, 50 to 60% is kind of what we generally see the town paying for retired health care. The reason why you have it is simple. It's very difficult to retain and recruit people if you don't offer these benefits, because when 98% of your peers do, people are going to go where they get the better deal. And when you're 27 years old, probably not something you really think about a lot. When you're 57 years old, you think about it a lot. So, we've seen several communities who didn't offer it do studies like this. Some have decided to move forward. One did not. But I could have told you that one was not going to do before we ever did the study. They had no money. And they pretty much told me that before we started too, but they felt they needed to do it. The push and shove of it is, these things are not cheap. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, they're not cheap. Healthcare costs, as you probably know, is a very expensive item in your budget, and retiree healthcare cost is no cheaper. On the other hand, there's the soft dollar cost. When you hire, the reason why we do this for a town not too far from you guys, when they put it in, is they were tired of hiring police officers who would work for like 2 years and then go to another town. So they were trying to find a way, how do I keep these people? I'm going to spend all this money to recruit and retain people, or recruit and train people, I should also try and retain them. And we've been seeing a ton of turnover in municipal in general as it is right now, and I don't know about you guys, but we've been seeing, 15 to 20% turnover pretty much every year around the state. We work with probably 150 towns across Massachusetts right now, then a bunch of school districts and housing authorities and so on. So we work with quite a few people across the state, including many of your peers in your neighborhood. And turnover is crazy right now. That just is what it is. So if you were to offer this benefit, the liability that would go on your books is about $1.2 million, which is, would probably be the largest, if not second largest number on your balance sheet. So, let's just get that out of the way. It's a big number. However, there's a difference between putting a big number on your balance sheet and what it's going to cost you year over year. And for the first 10 to 12 years, it's going to start low. Within about 10 years, it'll cost you about $50,000 a year, cash out the door cost. Again, not free. On the other hand, what does it cost you for training of people who are leaving every year? What does it cost you for lost institutional knowledge for people leaving every year? So, again, I can get deep in the weeds and talk to every number known to man here, but I think the real issue, and Nate and other folks, Mary and Kelly and others who've seen this stuff before, there's a quantitative, numbers. I can show you $1.2 million. I can show you $50,000 a year. But there's the quantitative. The qualitative is, who are the people I'm losing? Who are the people I want to keep? And can I keep people? So I think that's really, what it comes down to. I mean, I'm happy. I don't know if I can share a screen here or not. I'm happy to walk you through the report if I have the ability to share or not.
You should be
I
able
don't-
to.
All right, well, if I can share, I'll see if this will let me share. All right, so, which of these? All right, find a window and, okay. So in theory, all right, let's just the top of this thing. I've never used Google Meet before, so excuse me, I'm trying to figure this out as we're going along here. So again, we assume that you guys are gonna be a 60-40 for the retirees like you are for the active employees, like we talked about the $1.2 million number that I spoke about. Here are the key drivers of things that drive costs. You know, you're wondering what these actuaries and what do they do and how do they come up with all these magic numbers? Well, premiums, what do healthcare costs? Well, obviously it's a big one. One of the other big ones is when do people retire? If people retire earlier, healthcare costs cost you more money because people will get it for a longer period of time. What percentage of you will take it? Because many of your people have a spouse or someone else who they can get healthcare coverage from, or they say, hey, if I pay 40%, I'm just not going to buy it, which is fine. One of the big things is, you know, projecting out what healthcare costs are going to be in the future. And I always tell clients, I can assure you that we are wrong. Anybody who tells you they know what healthcare is going to cost in the year 2075, good luck with that. You know, we all make our best estimates, but assuredly, we are wrong. So we're talking about GASB, the numbers that go into your financial statement is the interest rate, we call the discount rate. The interest rate we use to bring all those future claims back to today. There's a certain circularity in how GASB has you do things. And what I mean by that is, if you were to fund money, set up a trust fund and put money in each year, and you're to invest that money more aggressively, in other words, not in T-bills or, you know, bonds, let's say, you get to use a higher interest rate, which therefore means the number is not $1.2 million anymore, but instead maybe it's $800,000 goes in the balance sheet. So you get to use a higher interest rate if you would invest money. We can argue whether that's good or bad, but those are the rules. We talked about the 50% cost sharing already, and so I mean that's kind of how these things all get calculated. So once we do all that, you know, we're looking at $1.2 million, about $70,000 per active employee. But I'll get you the next slide. Actually, I put things in present value terms in today's dollars. It's very terrifying to look at numbers and go, when you look at the out year numbers, you go, oh my God, these numbers are going crazy. What are we doing here? You know, even 30 years from now in today's dollars, you're talking about $83,000 a year in cash out the door costs. So it's not nothing. But I mean, that's, at that point, you're talking about 15 retirees and spouses 30 years from now. So again, it's not my budget, it's not my money. So let's be clear about that. But $83,000 to me is a number you can manage if you start setting aside some money. And again, easier said than done, I get all that. But as I also tell people, you know, I did a presentation on this for a town recently, it's never going to be easier to do these things than it is now. And what I mean by that is, the Northeast is not exactly a booming destination. This is not Florida, this is not Texas, this is not Arizona or South Carolina. This is not where people are moving. Add in declining birth rates. This is not where people are having kids, or anywhere in the US for that matter. And we have an aging population in the Northeast. So when you look at things, you know, now is the time to take action because your budgets now are as good as they're probably ever going to be. And that may sound tough, but I mean, the reality is the federal government is not going to come and bail people out. There is no money there. The state's not going to come and bail people out. They have no money. So it's a matter of really trying to figure out how do you act more efficiently, and part of that is by keeping the people you have and not constantly training new people. So I can make an argument that putting in OPEB is ultimately, you know, an efficiency argument that down the line it actually saves you money on training and other things and allows you to deliver services more efficiently. Now, admittedly, we do lots of OPEB evaluations every year. We do probably 600 a year. So we are not unbiased observers in this, I acknowledge that. But I think, again, with what we see for turnover, and especially in a community where you're seeing 98% of your peers offer these benefits, it's going to be very difficult for you guys to keep staff over the long term unless you're going to pay them excessively above market salaries, which is not what I generally see people in your part of the state doing. So your choices are either have a revolving door of people coming in, or pay excessive salaries to keep people. Neither one of those seem like a great answer to me, so to me, the solution is to try and find retention benefits such as this to keep people. The next slides are pretty much just showing you the numbers split out by function. You guys, I think, have all seen copies of the report already, and then we have a 30-year projection showing you the numbers. You've pretty much already seen, what numbers look like in present value terms already. I mean, again, I'm happy to walk through line by line of reports, but I think it's probably gonna largely waste your time, so I don't want to do that. I mean, questions, comments, concerns, things I can answer?
I do.
Go ahead.
So you said insurance for life. Life stops at 65, right? Because you gotta go on the government plan.
Well, life may stop for some people at 65, but not for healthcare. You're gonna go on Medicare at 65, there are Medicare supplement plans.
I
And there are-
understand that, but I just wanted to, because when you say life, people get a little confused by that. I was one of them. I started at age 36 working for the state, retired at 56. Now next year I gotta go on the government plan. But I do have the option of a supplement.
Yeah, and I would tell you, pretty much everybody keeps the supplement. People are not going on Medicare and dropping these plans, because people are gonna keep this plan, and, it's a very valuable benefit, and yet people definitely appreciate it and keep it. I'll tell you that, 80 to 90% of retirees will keep the benefit.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jeff, Heather raised her hand.
Go ahead, Heather.
Thanks, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yep,
I hear you fine.
Okay, excellent. So Parker, here's a question for you. Can you just, I know Nate and I talked about this a little bit earlier. Can you just explain a couple things for us? Number one, are there any mechanisms that other towns you've worked with, you've seen utilized to kind of keep the numbers down? So a cost share of the employees while they're employed before they retire, as well as have you seen any policies that communities have put into play restricting someone's eligibility? So like I've heard of towns that have looked at, well, you have to be an actual person on the health insurance plan before you retire from the town to be eligible for it. You have to have been on that health insurance plan for X number of years, and you have to retire from the town of Hubbardston to be eligible. I know some towns have had some fun things happen recently where someone's retired from a community that did not have OPEB, and then they went back to the last town they worked for before they retired from that town and got benefits from them.
Yeah, so a couple things on that. So as far as the one you described, there are not many towns that don't have it, but you are right. If I were to work at, let's just take City of Boston, because it's a big one, everybody knows, or Springfield or something like that. I worked here for 27 years. I come to Hubbardston for 5 years at the end of my career. Hubbardston doesn't offer the benefits. I'll go back to Springfield or Boston and get the benefits. That could actually happen. But the reality is that there are very few people like you guys who don't have it. So that's not really much of a concern. The larger concern, unlike the pension plan, in the pension plan, the money follows the retiree or follows the active employee. In the OPEB world, there is no money to follow them. So there's an issue of last man standing gets the bill. So if I work at Hubbardston for 27 years and I go to City of Boston for 3 years and I retire, City of Boston gets my entire healthcare bill for the rest of my life. Even though they worked 27 years in Hubbardston and 3 at Boston, Boston gets the entire bill. So there is no cost sharing in that regard. There is no deal like that. They tried a Section 9A.5 that got repealed, I want to say, like 6-7 years ago, something like that. So that pretty much went nowhere. So there is an element of, as I always say, I'm not encouraging age discrimination, but be aware that if you hire somebody at the end of their career, you're likely the one who's going to get the entire bill for their health care coverage, if you have these coverages. And I say that because during COVID, we had a town that hired a school teacher who was like 63 years old. She worked 1 year, she retired, and so they got about a $250,000 bill for that 1 year of service. Not the best hire they've ever made. But again, maybe she was a phenomenal teacher, I have no idea. But purely economic argument, not a great deal. As far as eligibility, what people have to be on your coverage for a period of time, yeah, there's people who put in, you must be on the coverage for 1 year, 2 year. But here's the deal, anybody, if you have that plan, everybody gets close to retirement, everybody comes on your plan. You know, you're not really accomplishing anything by doing that. I mean, I suppose you get 1 or 2 people didn't think about it, but that's not really gonna save you any money. Anybody who's thought anything whatsoever about retirement is gonna come on your plan for the last 2 years, or whatever it is, make sure they get the coverage. That's not really gonna do a whole lot for you. You know, I think it was, your initial question was, that was the second and third questions. I was going backward and reverse. The first question was,
Contributions by current
contribution.
employee towards.
yeah, and so the reality is you're not allowed to charge beyond 50%. You can charge up to 50%. We assumed 40% in this example is what you would charge. So you can charge up to 50, but that's Mass General law. You can't go beyond that.
Can you charge employees while they're still employed before they become, so can current employees now be contributing towards OPEB?
There are some towns that do that, and that's certainly fine. I mean, I'd say half a dozen towns that do that. Here's the difference is, unlike your pension plan, where money goes into a pot of, and if they retire, if they leave after 7 years of employment, let's say, they get back contributions with interest. In the case of OPEB, if I worked there for 7 years and I contribute toward OPEB and I leave, I don't get anything back. Effectively, all I'm doing is I, as an employee, am agreeing to take a pay cut of 1%, let's say, in exchange for helping the town fund OPEB. And that's certainly fine, you know, there's no problem with that. But it's really, if we're honest about it, it's simply just asking employees to take a 1% pay cut or a 2% or whatever it is to help the town fund OPEB. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's really what's going on here. There's no separate accounts, people's money or anything like that. And part of that is because it's not a pension plan, it's not a facility to do that under the law.
So, one more question, Parker, for
Yeah,
you.
of course.
Of the communities you've worked with, how many do you see have found a way to cover the cost of retiree health insurance under their current budgets?
When you say covered under the budget, you mean, are they funding money each year? Are they,
So like, let's say that we have let's say this goes into effect and everyone wants to run away screaming and we have 3 retirees next year.
yeah,
So 3 retiree health insurance folks that we didn't have previously, how many of those towns would just be able to cover that amount in their operating budget and not have to start pulling from another fund already?
well, I would say everybody funds out of that. That's not really been a problem. It's more a matter of, the issue is more funding beyond that, and then the question is, where does the money come from? And people have dedicated sources like meals tax. I always joke about, we work at Foxborough and they have a cute little football team that plays there to help with the meals tax. Not everybody has that, but other towns have other sources of money. We have towns, for example, that have said, hey, we're going to put in 1% of payroll, plus we're going to put in 10% of free cash, plus we're going to put in $25,000 a year and increase it by 5% a year. So there's a lot of different strategies to do it. And then at some point in time, in theory, your pension system gets fully funded in 2039, let's say. That's going to free up money, but that money then can be used toward OPEB. So there's a variety of sources of money. It's a matter of, there's an element of, you take from all the pots you can find, basically, is what it comes down to.
So if we were to move forward with this and make it a thing come 2025,
Yep.
what would the minimum we'd have to start putting aside on an annual basis to have a positive outlook as seen by, creditors, bonding agencies, and so forth?
Yeah, it's really a matter of, the big thing I tell everybody is you need to have a plan more so. The dollars are less important than the plan itself. So if you have a plan, a mechanism to show them, and I always put pension and OPEB together because they're really 2 sides of the same coin. They're both retirement liabilities. And so the point is, right now you're on a pathway to settle your pension obligation somewhere in the late 2030s. That will be settled in theory. So the point is, we're going to bridge, at least with many towns, a bridge from here to there, and then we can use some of those monies to help fund the OPEB and get OPEB fully funded by 2055, let's say. And at that point, then everything runs, we just tap the trust and pay for the benefits at that point. So to your point about how much you would need to contribute each year, ideally for a town like this and the kind of money you're talking about, if you could come up with somewhere in the neighborhood of, $20,000 to $25,000 a year, and find a way to increase that with, again, at 4 or 5% a year. Again, whether that's a portion of free cash, whether that's a dedicated amount through the town budget, whether that's a percentage of payroll, whether it's all of the above. But it's really more about having the plan, and more importantly, following the plan. A plan not followed is not a plan. So what we're looking for is we set up a plan in 3 years, and each year we actually follow the plan. So we can show the auditors and the rating agencies that we had a plan, we followed the plan, and by year 2058 or whatever the date is, we expect to be fully funded, and we're showing a pathway to pay this down. So it's like everything else you guys do in your town budget. It's about showing responsible budgeting and the fact that you're addressing the liability.
Thanks, Parker. That's all I had for questions.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions? Heather, do you have anything else?
No, I think that's every question I could come up with.
Okay, okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
question. So Parker, if you could
Yeah.
outline for the board where they could or could not go from here, that would be great. So the next step would be considering interest, drawing up our proposed ideas, and then potentially writing a policy? Or what would your next step in consideration? Obviously, we don't know if it's yes or no. There has not been any votes, anything like that. We would obviously have to go into a period of discussion and deliberation and thought, but what's next? Where do you suggest to go from here?
Well, I think to me, it's kind of to what Heather's point was is what's the budgetary pathway to get there? What we're not trying to do is go in here. Let's come up with a plan that's going to drive you guys into a budgetary purgatory or worse about what are we going to do. We're trying to ultimately solve a problem without creating a second problem. So we're trying to find a way, how do we keep the people we have, we want to keep, how do we bring in new people, and how do we ultimately get better efficiency and less turnover. So I think part of that is to figure out is what are some revenue sources, be they meals tax, percentage of free cash each year. Is there some amount of money that we can free up $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year that we can do this? Or if we say, hey, listen, if we cut turnover by X, that's going to save us X amount of money. Because there is going to be some soft dollars here that are going to be hard to measure. There's going to be a certain leap of faith that's going to have to happen. If we get less turnover, it's going to save money. But I think that, to me, if I'm in your guys' shoes, that's what I'm thinking is there a way that I can, because like I said, in the next 5 years, your cost per year is going to be less than 10 grand a year, and by 10 years from now, you're still talking at $15,000, $20,000 a year. So your cash out the door costs for retirees are not going to be high in the next 10 years. But again, you're not trying to drop a big liability on a future board either. So you're trying to think that through. So I think to me, it's more a matter of, can you come up with a pathway to a $15,000, a $20,000 annual money you can set aside each year into a trust fund, and then let that money work for you, because ultimately, the idea here is the stock market can be your friend if you let it. Certain years are going to be terrible, absolutely, but over the long term, the last 100 years, it's been a huge growth engine. I can't promise that's going to be the case in the future, but statistically, one would think that way, and if it isn't, you open up the door to the least of your problems. And so I think that to me is the pathway. So I think it's a matter of ultimately, if you want to go forward, you're going to have to adopt, Section 32B and adopt a plan. But I think in the near term, it's a matter of, you get people comfortable about a $15,000 to $20,000 a year number to pay for retiree health care per year. Are there significant, can you get people comfortable with the idea that you're gonna get lower turnover and therefore get better town services because you're doing less training and get to keep people? If you can do that and get that buy-in from people, then I think it becomes a layup. But again, these are things, like I said, in other towns I've seen it come down to police recruits and training classes and trying to, having to avoid putting a new training class every single year because people keep leaving. So I think those are the kind of things, if I'm in your shoes, that's what I'm focused on, is to maybe get, talk to your police chief, talk to your fire chief, and some of those kind of people who are most likely to see the turnover, and ask them, is this the kind of thing that's gonna help reduce that for you? If they say no, then, then I think we gotta go back and revisit, well, what's going on, why are these people really leaving? So I think you have to find ways, and I think this is one of them, to keep those people in the jobs. But I think, to me, that's how I would approach it if I were you guys. And then once you get through that, then I think the rest of it is more mechanics, just figure out how to adopt 32B, how to set up a trust fund, and then the mechanics of it after that are relatively straightforward. I think it's just more a matter of how do you build the will so that this isn't, what the heck did we do here, but rather, we're seeing some real benefits in terms of, turnover reduction and service improvements.
Parker, does it have to be the number of $15,000, $20,000 a year, or can it be something that's probably more biteable for us, which is closer to like 5,000 being at the high amount?
Well, again, it's going to depend on, over time, as more people retire, the number will go up. In the short run, it's going to be a pretty low number. But I mean, my thing is I don't want to, what I don't want to do is overpromise and go, hey, look at this thing costs nothing. Well, and then 5 years from now you go, where'd this number come from? So, I don't want to be unrealistic. I mean, part of it is, you guys don't currently have a Medicare supplement plan, so we've assumed what that would look like. Listen, you guys can go, depends on how much you watch TV, I suppose, but if you've seen Joe Namath advertising for, Medicare Part C, or, call and give us your zip code and special benefits and all that stuff, you can get Medicare supplement plans, Medicare Advantage plans relatively cheap. It just depends on if you want them or not. As I tell every town who people try and talk them into it, is that you have to understand what you're buying. We use the Medicare supplement plan in your part of the state. It's about $350 a month for a Medicare supplement plan. There are Medicare Advantage plans, like the ones you see on TV, that are, $100 a month, $200 a month. So you can certainly do that. The reason they're cheaper is because they have a lower prescription drug benefit and/or they have a narrower network. The advantage of Medicare, for all the grief it gets, is I can go to pretty much any doctor in this US that I want and be covered. Under a Medicare Advantage plan, it's much like your local HMO. I have a network of doctors I can go see, or I have out of network. Out of network makes no sense, so I have to go with those doctors. So you could definitely cut the cost if you wanted to, but I just tell people, it's a more restrictive network. That's not bad, it's just a choice you have to make. So if you're willing to do that, you can absolutely cut the cost. Again, we've not modeled that because, at this stage, we're just trying to show you guys, here's what a plan in your area normally looks like, but you can absolutely put in a cheaper Medicare plan and cut the cost by a third pretty easily. It wouldn't be that difficult to do.
So Parker, one more question. So just to make sure we're all on the same page here and understanding. So there's essentially two costs we need to think about, right? One cost is funding this future liability if we move forward. And the second cost is funding the actual cost to date if we have anyone that takes advantage of it. So let's say we go to town meeting, get everything approved, the MGL's accepted, we move forward to get the trust adopted, everything is rolling like clockwork, July 1st comes and we have 2 people retire.
Yeah.
So for 2025, we'd have to cover the cost of these 2 individuals. Let's say that they retire from public safety, which is 55, so you're gonna have them a lot longer before they can switch plans.
Yep.
We would cover our portion, the town's portion, so let's say it's 50-50 of the health insurance retiree plan.
Yep.
And then at the same point, we would put, let's say for July 1st, $5,000 away for the OPEB savings, we'll call it, or the OPEB trust.
Yep.
So at the very beginning, before we have someone who actually retires from this, the only cost we're saving for is the future cost that doesn't currently exist.
Correct.
And then we start funding for people we actually have to fund for the actual costs year to year, depending on who takes advantage of it. But one of the benefits, and one of the reasons we talked about this in the first place, and you already hit the nose on the head on this, is we were losing a lot of people who were going to another community because they had benefits. So we were having retention issues.
Yep.
And as people started getting older, they were like, hey, I could retire from here, I'm super happy, everything works, but there's no health insurance benefits, and there's 98% of communities that have it, so I need to go find one that's not 2%.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it, and that's why I say, and here's the other side of this is, you know, having done this stuff now for a very long time, I'm old, but, is that, you know, look at it this way, you've got, you know, your 62-year-old worker, or 60-year-old worker, whatever age you want to pick, and they're making $75,000 a year, let's say. And, you know, they would love to leave, but there's no health care. So they're going to hang around until 65, as I mentioned before, health care for life is 65, because then I get to Medicare. Well, they'd like to leave at 62, but there's no health care. And so they're going to hang around. They would love to leave, but you can hire a 38-year-old who's going to work for $50,000 a year, let's say, because they're new. So you're going to save $25,000 a year. Now that retiree's health care was going to cost you at 50-50, let's say, $8,000 a year. So you're going to look at it and go, well, I don't want to pay $8,000 a year, and they're, okay, that's fine. But you're paying $25,000 extra a year in salary, because another person would have come in and worked for less money. So it's not, that's why I say you have to look at the holistic picture. If you get hung up in the individual line item, it can be going, oh, I spent all this money on this. But if you force Mary or Joe to work another 3 years when they really would prefer to be out the door, they're probably not as productive as they used to be because they really don't want to be there. But they're not going to leave because they don't have any health care. So you're paying somebody more money when you could have gotten somebody to do the job cheaper because you're trying to save a couple dollars. So it's actually not saving you any dollars when you get right down to it. So again, you can show examples on all sides, but I think my point is that, again, it's more of a holistic argument, I think, rather than individual line item.
So if we were interested in moving forward with this, Parker, it sounds like the next steps would be queuing this up for annual town meeting in May to be able to accept the relevant provisions in the Chapter 32B.
Yep.
Then we'd be going from there, working with Mary and others to get the OPEB trust in line.
Yep.
We'd also be working directly with Nate and the FinCom to set up a budget line item for how much we want to start putting in the savings account for next year.
Yep.
And then we'd also be working with our health insurance provider to see if they can queue us up some plans so we have those numbers and can start having them available in case any employees are interested in retiring. They would have what those plans look like, as well as we would have the costs.
Yeah, and as far as the plans, and listen, you already have the people who are not yet 65 are going to be on your active plan. So that part's pretty simple. The Medicare supplement plan, your choice is going to be, again, do you go to the standard MedX 2 plan, which some people in your part of the area do, or do you go to the Medicare Advantage plan? And either one of those are perfectly fine. You know, I don't know, I'm dogging the fight because I don't sell insurance. There are pros and cons to each. But yeah, I mean, I think it's, to your point, I think the biggest thing is to build the will or the strategy or the to sell it to the community to why we want to do it, because absent that, if you just tell them, hey guys, we want to spend, you know, $25,000 a year to offer this benefit. If there's no rationale for why we're doing it, you know, any taxpayer is going to go, well, I think we should not spend $25,000. So I think the biggest thing is to go back to, you know, Nate's earlier comment. I think is we need to build the infrastructure, or the goodwill around it. We will understand why that we're doing it. And I think part of that is to explain, as you just mentioned, about people get to be a certain age and go, well, everybody else has this benefit. Yeah, I like it here, but I guess I have to leave. And so that's part of what I think, you know, to some extent, yeah, I think that's really where the sales process comes in. And then the rest of it, I think, is just relatively mechanics at the end of the day.
Thanks, Parker.
Welcome over.
Okay, anything else?
No, sir.
All right, well, Parker, we'd like to thank you for your presentation tonight, and we've got some things obviously we have to think over. So we're not gonna obviously act on anything tonight without
No, I understand.
thinking about it and digesting it. We'll probably bring this up in another meeting in the new year, would be our plan at this particular point in time, but I wanna thank you very much.
You're very welcome. If you guys have more questions or think of other things or wonder why I didn't talk about whatever, you guys got the number, give us a call anytime, we'll get you squared away.
Thank you very much, happy holidays and happy new year.
Hey, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
In the new year,
Bye.
Mr. Chair, this is such a seasonal item.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mary, thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys.
See you, Matt.
Okay, moving to item 5, the capital improvement plan, Nate?
Yes, sir. 1 second. Let me cue up my screen.
God, I can do that. Just hit there. As opposed to going
There
through
you go.
72 pages of the other one that I already looked at. It's,
Want to join us, Chief? I feel like this is what you came to be part of the conversation.
Actually, it turns out I came for the first one.
Yeah. So our entire complement of Bobs will be retiring within the next
You'll
couple
see it
years.
better from there, Bob.
Well, that story is true. It's like he said exactly. It's you don't think about it, then you start thinking about it later in life, and now that's a big sticking point. I could retire in probably 4 years, but if I have to pay for health insurance, I could go on my wife's plan, but she doesn't have a great plan. So now that becomes a real sticking point if I'm paying for my own health insurance,
Yep.
which I've been doing a bunch of research, which could be, you could have really on the fairly cheap side, or to have something that we have here, you're talking crazy amount of money.
Yep.
So that is something that, you know, the 27-year-old kid, he's not thinking about it, but when you start to get to be near the 1/3 towards the end of your career, you start thinking about it, so.
That's why I asked them, when they like to push it's for life, it's not for life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was the only thing, and he made it still sound like it was that. I
Yeah,
thought
no,
it was once you're
stops at
65.
65, and then you gotta go on
have to.
Medicaid or Medicare, and then you gotta buy a supplement.
And so you're only.
So
I-
basically, that would only cover the supplement part.
Yes.
okay.
It's
At
not
that
the-
point, the town would
It's
offer
just a
supplemental
supplement.
insurance to
Yeah.
your.
Correct, so that's all
Part,
it
was
is.
Part A and B?
Yeah.
So it's still a dollar amount.
Yeah, there's still a
It's still a
cost.
dollar
Yes.
amount, but supplements are $100 a month, $150 a month.
Not arguing that.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
not gonna discuss it tonight anyway, so, we'll put that on for January. We're going to the capital improvement plan, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's that time of the year, the capital improvement plan for FY '26 through FY '30. There, if you wanna keep your eye on the screen, I did write a presentation. You can also follow along in your packet. There is a larger presentation with verbiage and some writing for the general public, but I did keep it brief for this evening because after our riveting conversation on OPEB, we have this, which is a by the edge of your seat conversation, and then there is another incredibly riveting conversation on digital equity. So I will keep this as brief and interesting as possible. What is a capital improvement plan? This is well, 1 second, I would also like to point out that one of the 3 members of the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, Francois Steiger, I believe is still with us. So Mr. Steiger, if you have any comments while we go through this, please feel free to raise your hand. And as with most of my presentations as of late, if anyone has any questions, don't wait until the end, just
No, I'm waiting for this page. This is my question page.
I know which one's the question.
No, I got a few questions on this page. It's not just one.
What page, what number?
Don't worry about it. We'll get there.
All right.
Let him do his thing.
A multi-year plan for capital investments infrastructure. Why plan? It reduces unexpected costs, prevents emergencies through proactive maintenance, aligns investments with strategic goals, and increases transparency and community engagement. Fiscal management goals. Maintain 6% of operating budget for capital projects. Keep annual debt service under 5% of general fund revenues. Ensure reserves for fiscal stability and a capital stabilization fund reserve of 1%. Key objectives for the FY '26 through FY '30 capital improvement plan. maintain public safety infrastructure, improve roads, bridges, and facilities, upgrade technology and efficiency, enhance community service, and promote fiscal responsibility. The few things this year that are going to be named as the FY26 allocations are kind of brought into two pots. The recurring allocations and the one-time funded in FY26 allocations. The always popular $100,000 towards road maintenance with the DPW. It adds to annual repairs and improvements townwide. It aids in the completion of our 5-year plan, which would not be able to be fully implemented should this money go away. SCBA replacement is a breathing apparatus system for the fire department. We do not need to fund it until I believe FY29, but versus taking $100,000 hit later, I spoke with the chief last year and we began funding it piece by piece. It is in the hopes that we will be able to receive a grant and this money will be able to be utilized elsewhere, but to be rather safe than sorry, putting it away for such an important investment down the road is imperative. Chief, do you have any comments on SCBA's?
No, it's just that you can't operate without them. That's, the packs on our backs with breathing air. It's like without them, you can't operate.
And
So
you get how many years out of
it's the bottles themselves are 15 years. The packs themselves, there is a way to extend them through annual service, but it's one of those things they have to be serviced, and you can get a few more years out of them after that. Ideally, you'd want to switch out everything all at once, but there is a little bit of wiggle room on the pack themselves. The bottles is a 15-year life, and that's it.
So 15 is the recommended
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
for them.
And I got a question, grants for Scott Air Packs, self-contained breathing apparatus, I mean. Didn't we get a grant last year for those, or the year before? Have we ever received a grant for Scott Air Pack replacement?
No.
We haven't. Are they available?
Well, you could do it through the FEMA, which is highly competitive.
Alright,
Nothing specifically for air packs that I know.
alright,
But yeah, you could do they have a wide net of things you can do, but with that, it's highly competitive.
right.
So at some point, we'll put in for it.
The state doesn't have anything out there for?
They have an equipment fire grant, safety
Which-
grant.
yeah.
But this is the last year of it, and it goes by population, and for our population, you're eligible for up to $12,500. So we've used it for various things. The last one that I put in, which we haven't found out if we're gonna get it yet, was
Yeah.
for active shooter equipment, vests, tactical helmets. So that we've used it for turnout gear in the past, that we needed, so.
Okay, alright, thank you.
Yep.
And I'm not having these in my presentation, is this somewhere else, these slides you're
Yeah, I
showing
don't
us?
have that.
the slides are
That's different than what we have in our package.
yeah, the slides are a summarized version of the document.
Okay.
AI.
Nope,
No?
nope,
Okay.
and no AI.
So we don't have those.
You have the full version.
Yeah, it's, there's no page numbers on here unfortunately, so I can't tell you what page it's on. But it's this right here, I think. If it looks like, if you find that.
We haven't got to that one yet.
Yeah, it's got all that listed, I think.
Oh, that, oh, this is the
No,
one.
this
We haven't
is-
got to that page yet.
Oh, alright, well, that's what I'm going by.
He's on a different page.
That's this, right?
Nope, I'm on a different page than you all.
Alright, moving right along.
Yep,
I have
moving
no
along.
idea where we are then.
That's okay, don't worry.
Okay. Go ahead, Nate.
Nate's gonna keep talking.
Tech infrastructure, $20,000. This is a long-standing investment made every year. It is the only money that Hubbardston puts towards hardware, servers, computers, the things that keep daily operation going. There is a tech budget that pays for our vendor and our software costs, but this is the only money that is intended for hardware costs. and new this year is $5,000 towards grant assistance with the company we've been working with. Obviously, if this company ends up not panning out, we would not do this. But it is my hope that we can use this to strategically leverage times for specific grants to say, hey, this is something that's coming up, you fill it out. Because we have limited time and limited room on the plates of our already busy employees. Heather had a question, yeah?
Heather?
She typed it, did the 5K or something. I couldn't read it all. It wasn't
Heather, did you
long
ask a
enough.
question?
I cut it down from 10.
I did, whoa.
I cut it down from 10.
Katie, you were able to,
I can read from
But
here.
what
I
was-
can't read up close. I can read far away.
yeah. What's the definition in our capital of the minimum amount? Is it 5K or 10K?
10K.
So this doesn't even meet the criteria for CIP.
It would have if I didn't cut myself, but
If you didn't cut yourself, what's the rest of the definition for CIP? Isn't it usually purchasing stuff where this is more soft?
it could be.
Like, don't get me wrong, Nate. I think putting money aside for grant assistance is probably a very brilliant and great idea. I just don't know if it belongs in the capital improvement plan.
I don't necessarily disagree with you.
But that's all. Please continue. I just wanted to make that note. That's why I put it in the chat instead of asking, and I didn't want to disturb you and get you off track.
All right. Non-recurring single-year investments. A fire department pickup truck, $65,463, replacing a 2007 Ford F-250 used for daily operations and emergency response support. Impacted would be improved reliability and safety, reduced maintenance costs. The 2007 Chief, is it really running at all at this point?
No. We were gonna take it to TJ's, but they won't work on it. It's the brakes. The rear brakes need to be completely rebuilt. The fuel tank's gonna fall out of it because of the straps, and there's a problem in the front end that hasn't been diagnosed. Apparently, Highway has some interest in it, and Travis wants to take a crack at doing something with it. I don't, the body's rotted out on it. The frame is not starting, is rotting out. It's an 07. The only reason why it's lasted as long as it has is when we purchased it, it was used, and it came up from Florida. It only been up here for a year, so we got a few more years without the salt and New England sand and all that.
Is that the one you used to plow with?
Yeah,
The one that's off on the side there?
yeah. So that's not, currently it is not operational. There's no
And
brakes.
DPW could probably use parts and things and use it as a, yeah.
It has the Ford body rot on it, so the doors are rotting out and the cab corners, and there's not much left to that.
Slowly disintegrating.
Yes. I had one of those.
Still have mine.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't, when we buy a vehicle like that, which is for either the town or these guys, why don't we have the underside rhino lined?
Yeah, I know, the undercoat.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know.
For the extra couple grand it costs.
You gotta do that right from the get-go. That was a used one, so
Right,
it's
but I
already
understand it
saying-
came from Florida, which they probably don't do any kind of underliner,
No.
right?
I want to say the most recent truck we got, Travis's, was rhino lined. 'Cause
Underneath?
Yeah, we lost it for a couple of days when he first
Or
got
the
it.
bed.
No, the
I can't
underneath.
speak
Oh.
to it
But I can
exactly.
ask
That's a
him.
great idea. I mean, I don't know, we should do it for any vehicle that has, has to deal with over the road and salt and, these guys that are on the road and salt.
I'm right there with you. It should be sprayed.
It's an investment for 2,000, you might get an extra few
Get the
years
good
out of the
spray if
truck.
you
It's
send
that
it up to
2,000 is
New
cheaper than
The
65,
good spray.
right?
Well, they won't do it on, so if it's new to you,
Yeah.
they won't do it. If
No,
it's brand
it's gotta
spanking
be
new
brand
off the
spanking new.
lot,
You gotta send it
they'll-
up to New Hampshire to get the good
Right, so
spray.
even if we did try to do that when it first came out from Florida, nobody would have
No,
touched it with a
no,
10-foot
because it
pole.
would've.
That should be part of the truck, when these vehicles are spec'd for purchase, that needs to be in the spec, really. And that's how you need to request it with, right? You put in a
I would
request.
agree.
I mean,
It
I
falls
don't
through.
know enough about it. I know with my personal vehicle, I looked into it. There is some things with it, it can, depending on what you do, you can void the warranty on it spraying it. So I never did it, didn't go any further. But then I've been told by other people, depending on, certainly Ford might accept certain liners by certain people. So I don't know if it's, but for me, it was enough where I'm like,
It's for
I'm not
something
gonna
to
worry about it.
research.
with my
No,
personal
I mean,
vehicle.
they consider fire trucks and everything a commercial vehicle, because usually commercial vehicles aren't warranted like a regular vehicle.
It is commercial.
Yeah,
Mhm.
how would it not be?
Because when you look at the fine print, a lot of times you don't get the warranty out of commercial.
Oh, no, I
vehicle.
mean, I can't see it not being a commercial.
Oh, I see,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
right.
But there are still warranties with fire trucks, so.
Yeah, well, when you're spending $1 million, I would hope so, you know, right?
Alright.
One would think. Anyway.
Fire
Well, I think it's food for thought, right, Nate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we go ahead and buy this new truck, I think we'll consider the
We will.
undercoating, see what
Thank you
it
very
costs, see
much,
what
sir.
it does to our warranty and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Excellent idea, write that down. Thank you.
Alright, DPW brush mower replacement. This is a proposal to take a 7-year lease, which is what the next slide is about. And lease is not what you think with your own type of lease. We would take title immediately.
Yeah.
There would be no mileage or any sort of parameter in terms of usage or mileage or hours used. And it would be based solely upon appropriation. It would, if there was ever a year where it was not appropriated, that is the only time that we would be considered for giving back the vehicle and taking an L. So it would be a series of 1-year leases with the intent to be, after 7 years, to own the vehicle outright at 6 and some change %.
What's the total cost of that lease?
$210,000.
For how much is that equipment without a lease?
Well, the equipment's $210,000. It would be about $40,000 more than that over the life of the lease.
So you're paying $40,000 over 7 years for that lease?
Yeah. Which is, would be the same. Unfortunately, these larger price tag items are things we would likely never be able to put in the CIP because it would be 90% of it. When we're only talking $300,000 a year, it's hard to ever say, yep, this is the year that we're doing brush mower. And they are an incredibly important tool, and during the budgetary process, I can have the leasing company that I've been working with to get the numbers. Like, obviously, we would have to procure it and it would be competitive, but I was working with one company to get the facts.
Yeah.
And just then used it to go around and kind of balance.
So, let me get this. The cost of that tractor plus the sidearm with the cutter on it is $210,000?
Yes, sir.
What happens if we totally wreck it?
Did not ask, but we have insurance.
Just
So
saying, what
our-
happens
It would be
like-
covered on our insurance.
That's a
Okay.
lot of money.
Yeah.
What does Travis say about a lease?
Travis is okay with this after showing him everything because he wants a truck.
Well,
But
is that the only reason why he's okay with it? Because whatever, just to get to the end result, or does he have a preference on? Because this is gonna be coming out of budgets and everything else,
This
so
would not
it's
be
not.
coming out of budgets.
Well, you know what I mean. It's gonna come. The
It's gotta
money's
come
gonna
from
come
somewhere.
from somewhere.
That's what she means.
Yeah. So
So, what are they doing with the old one? Are they gonna keep that, keep putting money into it, or is it gonna go for auction?
I have not talked to him about
Well,
that.
I need to know that.
we got so many questions. Sorry.
You know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
it's important because you're gonna lease a new one, but yet you're gonna keep the old one and keep using it and sinking money into it. Doesn't make sense to me. I understand if you get 2 brush mowers out there, you get the job done twice as quick. I do understand that. But cost-wise, you know what I'm saying? Because the thing's always breaking down.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, I
All
think
the time.
Yeah, I feel like he's gonna get rid of that.
Oh,
You can't get any more blades for the cutter anymore.
Yeah, I
because
So,
it's
feel
it's,
so
like
okay,
old.
so it's useless to us then if it breaks.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I think the intention would be that to utilize it until such time as it either went or get rid of it for the money that we could get for it.
Yeah, like the next time time it hits a big rock, that's the end.
Yeah, so it's the mower that's the problem, not the tractor.
The tractor is still 27 years old itself.
Yeah, the thing looks brand new, for Christ's sakes.
Well, it's 'cause they take care of it so.
Yeah, I know, the tractor looks
Running
awesome.
around.
All right, thank you.
Brigham Street conceptual design, $28,000. Enhance road safety and accessibility. As you know, these streets that are designed, it kind of opens them up for grant funding, because a lot of these grants are specifically funded once a road is engineered. You saw that happen with the downtown project. It's currently, that's why we're pushing so hard for High Street when grants come out, because it is designed. And so that's where we do that, to set up and kind of queue up Brigham Street to.
So does that mean Brigham isn't isn't Brigham on the thing to get repaved next year? Or this is like for future down the road?
Yeah.
Okay, got it, never mind.
This would be a complete
Okay.
sidewalks.
Are you still on the mower, or you're
No,
the
we're on
next
Brigham.
item? All right.
The next thing.
And then culvert assessment year one, this would be a study to prioritize replacements and identify critical infrastructure needs that we could then utilize to move forward going for grants.
What was it?
If you wanna speak to this, you can, Patricia, she did the
So-
research on this one.
It would be looking at every single bridge and culvert here in Hubbardston, especially in the high risks areas that flood when we have wastewater issues. So that would be your stormwater, or spring comes and the last of the snow that's been
Like New
holding on
Templeton
melts. So New Templeton, Lombard,
Yeah.
areas on Brigham that flood. Old Westminster's now starting to have problems. So what we have is some aging culverts that just don't meet the standards anymore, and ones that don't meet what is called stream crossing standards. So wildlife can go underneath and stop up and over. And some bridges that definitely need to be looked at. So what it would do is it would look at all of these systems, then prioritize, all right, Lombard Road and say New Templeton Road should be at the top of your list. Here are the culverts, this is where they are, this is what we foresee needing to be replaced with.
So we need a culvert plan too.
We need a
Culvert and
culvert.
bridge along with our street plan, 10-year
And
plan.
Right, so
something
if
I
you-
don't necessarily want to kind of speak into the world, but Hubbardston's within striking distance of needing to be a MVP stormwater community, and that's not something that I really wanna talk about, but
The hell
this-
does that mean, MVP
you know, the
stormwater?
stormwater tax in Rutland, after 5,000 people, you end up needing to go and look into stormwater runoff improvements, and there are different regulations that you need to follow.
Because we feed the water for Boston.
No, because we have more than 5,000 people.
Well, then let's not.
Then you move.
Okay.
No.
And it's something I don't want to bring up, I
Yeah,
hope
okay.
that, but there.
Alright,
So that 5,000 is threshold, then what's the cost for stormwater? So you gotta change all your culverts to come up to code then at that time, is that what you're saying?
Over time.
Over
Over
time,
time.
so they forced you to a
It's a,
plan.
it's a big
Okay.
cost.
But these are non-state roads.
yeah, so.
So-
Thank you, Cody.
You're money ahead if we start planning now,
Go ahead, Heather.
rather than being forced to, I guess.
I was just gonna answer Peter's question. So MS4 costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Each year you do the permit, you're required to have more compliance,
Yeah,
from doing engineering designs and studies. So you're looking at, I think, I saw we had spent about 60,000 or so from consultant, and then each year we started adding more. This year, we're not even funding our full obligations for the permit, and we had to put in an additional 30,000 into our budget.
really.
But as years keep going, you're looking at 90, 150,000, year 6, year 7.
That's in a town with more than 5,000 people? Or you're talking about Hubbardston?
Accident.
No, that's if you're subject to MS4.
Oh, okay, right, that's what I
Small
mean.
town that we
Yeah.
could be looking at.
So is it 5,000, is that the threshold, what is the actual threshold? Is that like
That Nate would know than I. Every town I've been in since MS4 came out, we were just automatically part of it,
Yeah,
so.
so, I mean, in your mind, it would probably be a good idea to get ahead of this before we are forced to do it.
just keep it
Well,
up.
it helps a little bit. I mean, it's just good business anyway, right? Because
Right.
when you have water running out and water's like one of your main enemies when you have a road.
Well, right.
So if you fix where the water goes, then you fix the deterioration speed of the road.
Correct.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Heather.
And if I had the study in hand, there was 2 grants I could have applied for this year to help replace
Culverts?
more than one culvert, but I didn't have the study in hand, and I couldn't go up against the towns that have already done this study.
Yeah.
All right,
Sure.
well,
Alright, so this is for just the study, and what was the dollar amount?
$10,000.
Okay.
so you gotta have the study to apply for a grant.
Yes.
Always gotta have a
Yeah,
study
well,
done.
well, you know what,
When in
I mean,
doubt,
it's
study
cheap,
or survey?
it's cheap money, I guess, if the grant's gonna give you $100,000, your money's well spent.
I think one of them was $500,000.
Yeah, it's,
Uh-huh. It's a rule.
nothing's free.
Some kind
Grants
of
aren't
You gotta put
feasibility
something in the
study.
game of your own.
You gotta have, you gotta pull a
Gotta have
skin in it,
something.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you know what's easy about having these studies? You can just copy and paste into the grant.
Yeah.
As soon as
That's
Nate brings up the word feasibility or any kind of study, he can see it, the look on my face. He's like, I know you're gonna love this.
Yeah,
I'm like,
dollar,
no,
it always means
no.
dollars. All right, excellent.
I'll get you that number.
Okay, I'm just
5,000
curiosity,
is really sticking out in my head.
like a
but-
round number.
Yeah.
It's probably a round number, like, here's your threshold.
What's the population of Hubbardston?
4,500.
4,500,
Yeah, we're
maybe
good.
a little
Give or
less.
take.
But I do believe we're gonna see anomalies from the census during COVID to the next one, because the numbers dropped a decent amount, so I wanna say maybe they just didn't find some people,
And-
but.
They were hiding.
And the budding Gardner with this rail thing they're doing with the crazy
Oh, I don't
housing,
even wanna talk about that. Shh.
it's gonna
Yeah,
hurt.
state sucks.
When is the census usually taken?
Every 10 years.
No, like what time of the year do they do it?
All
The town
year.
does it every year.
The town does it when they send out the,
Yeah, it's in next
in
month.
this,
The
Well,
town
I'm
census will
thinking
go out
like
next month.
a lot
Yeah,
of the
spring.
properties
Or, well, whatever,
that
it's
they
too
would have
far.
reached out to are empty during this time of year.
well, no, it's you gotta pay taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
It comes in that envelope.
Oh, it comes in that.
Yeah,
Overview
it's all.
of tax exempt lease purchases. What is a tax exempt lease purchase? Financing method for municipalities to acquire essential equipment. Tax exempt interest rates due to the town's tax exempt status. Key benefits: lower interest rates, cost savings compared to traditional financing. Town owns the asset at the end of the lease. Preserves capital, no large upfront costs, spreads payments over time. Predictable payment, fixed payment schedule, simplifying budgeting processes. Immediate access to essential equipment while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Town retains the title to the equipment, the lease is subject to annual appropriation, and there is no mileage or hour cap. When I went and got the quote from these people, from this company, I got the quote for a brush mower and a $500,000 fire truck. The brush mower would be $36,000, $584 with a 7.18% interest rate over 7 years, equaling about $250,000. I can do the exact math, but
You can lease a fire truck?
You can lease a fire
you can
truck.
lease whatever you want.
How much does that cost?
It would be $85,000 a year for the $500,000 fire truck.
Hubbardston has it. We leased the SCBA's back in the day. That 07 pickup was a lease, and I believe the red ambulance that we just replaced a couple years ago was a lease. So there has been some stuff there.
Are they so like, could we lease the fire trucks that we need, that we're pushing off here? Cause this is stupid,
What is stupid?
pushing it off.
Didn't you just say that, what the cost
I know,
of the fire
like,
truck was?
can we do pushing off things that
Just
we
because
desperately
the
need?
fire department decided to write something on Facebook
I
does
have-
not necessarily mean
First
it
of all,
is-
I didn't know anything about that until I walked in the door, so let's back the truck up there, Skippy.
No pun
Um,
intended.
And the same thing too with the dump truck. These are big purchases. Last year we pushed off the brush mower and now it's costing us a lot more money. We keep pushing these big projects off, and this is long before you got here. We've been pushing these big projects off, and it is coming back to bite us in the ass. We have 2 now, fire trucks that desperately need to be replaced. And I'm not,
skipping I've told the chief for the last 3 years that if he wanted to propose a debt exclusion and could get you guys on board, by all means.
Well, I'm seeing this today.
There's never gonna be a time frame where a town administrator, myself, or one of my predecessors is going to be able to walk up and say, hey, you know what?
let's get a fire truck tomorrow.
Let's get a fire truck.
I understand that,
Right.
but I'm seeing these two big items getting pushed off again.
Well,
And
one, I mean,
Now you're
things-
bringing up that we can lease. Can we get that accomplished?
That's why I put it on here.
I know, well,
some clarification for mine, because there was something about, it was funny, because you brought that up, well, what does Travis think about this?
yes,
And
that'd be my next
I
question.
look at
What do
it
you think?
as, I tell you guys my needs from the department. How you get the money is not my business. A little bit, because I'm a taxpayer, so I have some interest in it. But as a fire chief, I don't care where the funding comes from, I don't care how long. I mean, I guess it does play an effect, because we've had it before in the past where they were financed, usually typically the fire truck was financed over 10 years. And then you had an overlap maybe for a couple of years that made it kind of tight, and then you went on and continued with the one truck. But me as a chief, I don't care where the funding is. And I know that Nate had brought it up as like, well, debt exclusion, but then we were going for the purchase of the building. Would it be an appropriate time? But I don't feel as though, because if I'm gonna be in charge of how it's funded, then I'm putting it in the capital plan. So that's how I look at it. If the town chooses, the finance committee, town administrator, select board chooses to do a debt exclusion, then that's fine by me too. So that's how I look at it. The financing part of it's not my forte, and it's not part of the big picture. Maybe somebody else, maybe some other project's gonna have debt exclusions, and you have 3 debt exclusions and they're not gonna pass. So that's where I'm at with it. I want it in the capital plan, it should be. And it's not a $500,000 truck going in the capital plan for 1 year. If you finance that over 10, and I don't know best practice, I know you don't wanna keep going out, but maybe with the cost of them, you go 12 years, I don't know how that is with that. Once again, I'm financing towns, it's not my
Right.
thing.
I mean, what's the life of that, what's the life of a truck, 15?
Well,
What's
you-
it
you're
supposed to be, or what
it's-
is it
yeah.
in this town?
So typically NFPA is 15 years as
Yeah.
a frontline piece, and
Okay.
then 20 years.
So why can't we finance for 15?
5 more years as a backup piece.
Yeah.
And then there's some rules, like if it has a certain
Yeah.
service, you can push it a little
Yeah.
bit more. You know, we usually go about, the last truck was replaced, it was 23 years old.
Yeah.
You know, it was on its last leg.
Yeah.
The truck that we have right now that we're talking about replacing is, was built in 2001, so it's gonna be 24 years old next year. I went and asked, that was the one that I asked for the grant.
Yep.
The guy said it was gonna be $1.1 million. That's a pumper tanker. It's an engine and a tanker combined into one. 1.1 million, I don't believe the town would approve that at a debt exclusion, seeing $1.1 million. So I went back and said, we need water on wheels to put out fires.
Yeah.
We don't have a hydrant system in town,
Yeah.
and we need to have water immediately on scene, for brush fires, structure fires, anything.
Yeah.
So that truck, I went and I redid it and sent it in to Nate as just a tanker. So it'd be a 3,000 gallon tanker.
Yeah.
It's a stock unit, it's not custom. It actually is just under what would fit into the bay
I
now.
know.
It'll hold a little more water than a tanker now, 500 gallons more, so instead of 2,500, it'd be 3. But it doesn't give you the versatility if you had to have it first due for a structure fire. It's gonna have some hose lines on it, a ladder, but it's not ideal. But at the same time, if we don't have water on scene to help the first
Right.
engine fight the fire, we're not gonna put any fires out. So.
The chief, did you say this was not custom?
It is not.
So-
It actually,
Yeah.
the chassis it's on actually meets the, it's
For-
like,
for the building
it's
that
like
it-
9.3 or something,
Because
yeah.
we're kind of
Yeah.
in flux.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Is it single
Building,
axle
you
or
know,
tandem in the back?
What does it cost to have a stand?
well,
I
I
would think
get
it's
that,
10
but
with 3,000
no, like, no offense.
I think that
We
one
can keep
is.
Yeah,
kicking
10
this
would
can
be-
down the
yeah.
line, but no,
But
I
I'm
don't
not
want
sure
my
they
house
might
to
have
burn
it
down
down
and
to
they
6,
can't start their
'cause it
fire
is a
truck
short
because
wheel.
we
Yeah.
wait.
I was
But
curious
still,
what
it's-
it cost.
Yeah, a lot
It
of
goes
it.
by weight.
Custom-made
Yeah.
truck.
Oh, yeah,
Shorten the
there's a
wheelbase.
difference.
I'm not sure
Why would we
exactly.
go that
Yeah.
way if we're gonna be
Can we
building?
reel this in? We got about 4 different conversations going on.
All right,
Can
just
we
a
get-
minute,
can we
okay?
get
Sorry.
back
Just
in
a minute.
reality here?
Just a minute, okay? Thank you. Go ahead. Totally forgot what we were talking about.
We were talking, you were saying about
I was
The
commenting,
cost
I had asked him a
difference.
question about
Yeah.
custom made, and he said no, et cetera, when we were discussing that, that's what we were discussing,
The
okay?
cost difference,
So-
yeah.
Alright. Go ahead, back to you,
Okay.
Nate.
To wrangle this back in,
Alright.
yes, we could lease a fire truck. It would not be a very palatable number. And the numbers that we're using right here, if it was a $500,000 truck, that would be $85,822.57 per year for 7 years at a 6.60% interest rate. That would be the same deal. We would take title, we would, like, the whole song and dance.
That's the longest lease they have for that? Or you just use that
That is the lease that was offered in the proposal.
for 500,000?
Yeah.
Well, we need $1 million, no, what's the tanker
This
truck?
one says 650.
I would ideally want the 1.1 million.
Right,
I don't think it would pass.
right.
So I adjusted my plan to make sure that we have at least something. It's not ideal. I wish I put in for this truck in ARPA funding and we didn't get any money towards it. So this has been an ongoing issue. But yeah, ideally I'd have the $1.1 million truck, but I don't think that's realistic in this town. It's not gonna pass. So I was like, we would at least ensure that we have a reliable truck with 3,000 gallons of water to support our engine one would be a huge thing.
Cause,
It's critical.
yeah, the whole fact is we're in between buildings, and I understand that, and we have to order something that is weird compared to
No,
what.
this truck's not.
Okay,
it's-
it will be
Because
fine.
it's a
Okay.
smaller truck. Yes, it
Okay.
still has a little more water. It's not a full pumper tanker, so it is shorter wheelbase.
Okay, so
And
it
it
fit
actually,
into station one.
Yes, it's
Okay.
under the height. And it's a stock truck. They
Okay.
build them now. We could get lucky and buy one and have it within a couple of months, but they probably still build it for you.
Yeah.
But you don't have, like, there's probably like a couple different options with it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but, so it could be a time frame, but a custom truck now, I think, takes close to 2.5 years to build.
To build, yeah.
This would be a lot quicker, and you might have one built already, because you're limited in your options.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, it's like,
not a lot
yeah,
of,
the low grade.
So
Yeah.
is the truck that Chief Hayes is talking about the one that you're talking about?
The F-250 from earlier, no.
No.
This is a truck that has not yet come up in my presentation.
Oh.
But speaking of the
Leases.
Member Young brought up the fire truck.
With the financing though, I would say all the fire trucks that I've seen, and there's a few of them, they've all been 10-year loans.
Yep.
So I don't, but once again, that's not my business. I don't know anything about that. And to me, I'd be like, well, you do the math and you stretch it out to 12 years, or maybe 15 if it's the life of the truck's gonna be, 20 to 25 for the town. But I don't know if that's good practice when it comes to finances with the town. I know with me, with my personal vehicle, I wanted to keep it to a 4-year loan or less, but, so I don't know
Well,
how those things work.
I just seen
but
two big things.
I just wanted to stress that this truck does not have much life left. And once that's down, our engine 3 is not reliable at all. That would be classified as a lemon from the day we got it, but we got stuck with it. So just having those two trucks, engine 1 and engine 3, without engine 2, would be in a world of hurt.
That's what I'm worried about, and where I'm watching this, and the plow truck, again, two critical pieces of equipment being moved back, again, both of them a year in the capital improvement. That's what worries me, and that's very bothersome to me, because we've been trying to get onto a path where we're replace, let's start getting our stuff, like the same with the roads and everything else, because we let everything go for so long, the same with the buildings. And the longer we kick everything down, A, the more expensive it is, and B, the harder it is gonna be to replace, cause it just compiles. Now, the stuff we replaced here is now shit, and we gotta do this one too, but we still have all these we gotta deal with. So you gotta pick your
Well-
battles on which is worse.
The hard part here, and
It's money.
It's money. It's
money.
Because I'm getting two things.
Yeah.
Don't push large-scale capital down the road. Don't say the word override. Like,
Well, that's where all of a sudden you say lease, and I'm like,
yeah.
okay, wait a minute,
And
what is this?
that's where I'm going with
Yeah.
trying to think outside of the box.
Yeah.
In terms, because municipal leasing has become more attractive over the last several years because more and more towns are running into the problems we are.
Exactly.
With the, we can't afford it, the town won't pass a debt exclusion or an override. What we are, not necessarily our case right now, but coming close to our cap with borrowing. We're fortunately not, but there is some large-scale borrowing on the plan for another equally or just more, there are competing priorities. So I'm not opposed to looking further into leasing options. I've got a quote for the 1.1. How I got the numbers for a $500,000 truck is took the $1.1 million quote and divided it by 2. Like,
Well, the whole thing, I'm concerned myself personally, living in this town, that there's an emergency at my house and they can't get their shit started. I find that absurd and upsetting to myself personally, let alone I can imagine some of the other people in this town, if they understood what we have sitting in Station 1. Okay, so if I'm having this issue and I'm sitting here at this board, I'm gonna speak my mind very much so about it, and I have in the past as well. So that's my stance on this is we need a damn fire truck, and I don't wanna see it pushed off the same with the dump truck.
the dump truck wasn't on any upcoming year anyway. I believe the dump truck was FY28 anyhow.
Okay, well, it says moved
Yeah.
right here in this slide that I'm looking at, so that's why even if it's 1 year, what is that gonna offset?
It says moved
Screw-
to
yes.
FY 29, it
Yep.
says moved.
Yeah,
So
from 28.
if we were to pursue and go with the lease option for the fire truck, it wouldn't be pushed off, is that correct?
Well, it was supposed to be in FY 27, which isn't even coming up right away, but I'm wondering if we can
It's a year out.
somehow kind of replace it maybe a little bit sooner if we can figure it out. Rather than pushing off something, can we bump something up?
So I have a question if we.
I'd like my question answered if I
Sorry.
could, please.
Yes.
Sorry. Do I need to repeat it?
Yes.
If we go with the lease option for the $650,000 fire truck, does it still need to be pushed out to fiscal year 28?
In the current plan, that is not in there. If I went back at the instruction of the board to reevaluate and bring forward proposals to move the fire truck up into FY 26 or FY 27, I would then propose to you something that did not push it to FY 28. The reasons that I have not got to as to why I am suggesting pushing this to FY 28 were this $500,000 truck is not the truck that the town has been asking for several years. It is not the truck that the chief or the department wants. Station 1 requires costly, custom-built trucks due to space constraints. We are working on getting a station that would alleviate and eliminate those space constraints. Secondary request, this is a secondary scaled-down solution to get a truck. My thought process here is cost saving. It enables purchases of standard, assembled, or used trucks. Future flexibility, potential for leasing or used vehicle options. I do want to look into this, but when our cap is $300,000 and the amount is $120,000 for 7 years, that's a hefty chunk of the capital improvement plan. Like, I don't have a very desirable job during these presentations because you have to again talk about competing priorities, and I understand that, and this is one of the more difficult times of the year, but I'm happy we have these conversations because they do more than the smiley conversations where
Everybody's nice.
where everyone is nice. But yes, if you ask me to, I have a quote right here that I'll print for you for a full-blown fire truck.
Can I just interject? Have you been satisfied with your question, Chris?
Once I hear the quote for the full-blown fire truck.
I'm printing it.
Yeah, but this is where my question has to do. right now you're looking at a $500,000 truck. It's not really the truck you need. You said it's not a fire, it's not a tanker pumper.
It's just a tanker.
It's
yes.
just a tanker to carry water. It's not a pumper to fight fires. Whereas the truck they have now holds water and fight fires with it. So we're diminishing our ability to fight fire with this extra tanker truck. Follow me?
Yep.
And that was my question. So you lower the amount to 500, you're getting a truck that can't fight a fire, but all it can do is haul water. It's not fighting the fire. It's supplying water to a truck that might break down fighting the fire. Follow me?
Yes,
So
I
he
agree
really
with what
needs
you're
a
saying.
pumper tanker, although it probably won't fit in the building.
Yet.
Oh, well, we gotta figure something out here, because
So, while I hand this out, let's remember, this is but one company.
Yes.
There are
No,
many
there's many,
companies.
and there's different things.
And I used round numbers.
right, am I right to say that? It's not really the truck we need as a town.
Yes, the one replacing what we have now is what we need.
Is-
But if we're not going to get that, then having the tanker is 100 times better than having nothing at all.
Agreed.
No, and I have
And
tried.
you lose your
I
ability
tried-
to fight the fire with that truck.
We've tried ARPA, putting on the capital plan. The FEMA grant came back, we were denied.
Yeah.
So it's multiple tries
Okay, yeah, sure.
at getting this done. And now this is a secondary solution to
Right,
try to have something.
I see where you're
so.
coming from, but it's just,
I'm worried that,
replacing a truck that's a fire pumper with a truck that's just a tanker, it puts you down a truck that can fight a fire,
Thank you.
right?
If engine one went out of service, yes.
Okay. And then you're stuck
Engine-
without a pumper.
Engine 3 is not really set up for that, and it's very highly, like I said, it would be classified as a lemon.
yeah,
There's always problems with it.
yeah, I know, that's the one, the problem child, they call it
Yes.
down there, yes, the problem child.
I mean, I appreciate the thought of a cheaper truck, but it's not really the piece of equipment we need.
Yeah, if that's not what's gonna, cause again, going back to, I don't want my house to burn down. You know, like, I want you to be able to come, at least rescue me and my kids and get us out of the house before, you know what I mean?
You'd be able to
Yeah,
blast down flames instead of
Yeah.
just having a tank in there.
Just for the good of the order, like, there was, publicly, there has been confusion today as to why this move happened. Right there for the record is my justification. Like, this isn't the truck we want. The Station 1 requires custom, costly built things. Cost savings enable purchase of standard assembled or used trucks, future flexibility, potential for leasing, which we're looking at right now, and a debt exclusion. If supported by the select board, a voter-approved debt exclusion impacting the capital operating budget could be approved any year.
but we can't put this off 5-6 years to,
It's 1 year.
no, what I'm saying
Well,
is to get for the building. Because in order for us to get to a point where we have something realistic over there, that you're looking at, like, what, 5-6 years before
Yeah.
we are at that.
And the fire engine in the post from the fire department was said to be moved to FY '28, it's FY '27.
Okay, I caught wind of that when I walked in, so I don't even know what the post was, I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway. My
So-
whole, I saw this when I was
Let
making
me,
dinner.
let me ask this additional question. The fire engine 2 replacement cost you have listed on this chart in my packet on my laptop for fiscal year '28 is $650,000. I've heard a number of $500,000, I've heard a number of $1.1 million. What is this number of $650,000 for?
I upped the number of the lower truck because that is
Just the tank.
that is the current request on the table from the chief. The priority of my considerations was going to be moving forward, getting to full-blown needed truck.
A real
Yeah, a real fire
That we
truck,
need.
like once again, that's my thought process.
Yeah.
Cost savings, future flexibility, debt exclusion impact.
Yeah, and we needed a real truck, like how many years ago though, that's the problem.
Yeah, and that's the problem with buying just a tanker, because
I know, it doesn't,
with the tanker pumper, which is what he really needs, and it's gotta be modified because it doesn't fit in that garage. But if that's on scene supplying water and the other pumper that you have to fight the fire goes down, at least you still have a truck to do it.
And to put it forward, we could, and I'd have to check with legal counsel and I'd have to get you an answer. I believe we could go for a 7-year debt exclusion to do something like this.
Okay.
Or I believe, and then we wouldn't have to pay it out of the
Capital improvement.
improvement budget. We could also go for, I'd have to speak with our advisors and our financial advisors. We could also look at what our debt options are.
Yeah.
But the problem there is we are publicly speaking about asking for a multi-million-dollar ask in the next few years.
Yes.
So it does have to be balanced. Again, competing priorities. And it stinks. Like, I would love to,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been put off so long, this is the bind we're in now. We need a building and we need equipment.
That's what I'm saying.
Right,
Everything
so,
has been kicked down so
I
long.
mean, you're gonna go for a debt excuse and to do an addition at the fire department, the new town office, but yet we need $1 million truck because we can't fight fires. I mean, it's just been an ongoing problem. We need to bite the bullet somehow. I don't know if a 2.5 will pass, but,
it would not be a 2.5.
oh,
No,
just a
it'd be a
debt
debt
ex-
It would
debt
be-
exclusion.
Let's remember, a debt exclusion is
It's
for the
different.
life of your.
The debt, and then it goes
of
away.
the debt, and it goes away. A Proposition 2.5 override is forever.
Right, so a debt exclusion
we-
for
there would not be-
$1.1 million truck. What was the last time we priced a pumper tanker?
Last
3 years
year.
ago?
No, that number, it was at.
800 and
It was
something.
at 950,
$950.
and when I contacted him, when I came in that time to ask your permission to apply for the grant,
Hmm?
which was what, 10 months ago or something like that, he said to up it to 1.1 to be safe. So, if we're gonna stick with that, you know, FY '28, you're probably looking at more like 1.2 million.
That's what I'm saying.
Does that
Yeah.
truck,
Kick it
you
down.
don't know if that truck's got 2 years of life left into
You
it.
don't, and that's the
The
problem.
every time you start that thing and take it out to go fight a fire, you don't know if that's its last one, and you can't have that.
Yeah.
When you're trying to fight a fire with no hydrants in town.
I don't know if there is such a thing as a compromise on this somewhere along
Right,
the
it's-
line,
it's
simply
hard.
because we've already mentioned it. For example, we have one major project already moving, which is the building.
Yep.
Now, this would be another significant thing, and if we go to the highest number, to me, that's gonna stop the building.
I don't know if it, but I don't know if it would though, if we did it,
'Cause
I
we
would
wanna be
say
kicking that
more,
down the road
well, that's what
either, you know?
but I'm saying if we did it, the fire truck more right away, you're looking at a 7-year, or maybe, depending on what Nate comes up with.
What's that, 120, 100?
So realistically, we still have I think we still have at least 5 years before we can go for money for that building. We're gonna be towards the end of it.
That's not the goal timeframe.
I understand what the goal timeframe, but I'm talking about the realistic timeframe, cause I'm more about reality.
I'm hoping to be able to bring that design to a town meeting in 9 to 12 months.
You have tenants in there.
But not that, did I say I'm hoping to build a facility in 9 to 12 months?
But that's what I mean,
No.
bringing plans forward is great, and I'm not saying, you wouldn't get the money 3 years you still have tenants for 3 years. So we wouldn't be asking for the money we just redid the vet's lease for 5 years, we just did it. Like what, a month ago? We got 5 years. The vet is gonna be there for 5 years.
That truck don't have 5 years, right?
I
No,
don't,
because even if it's FY '27, that would be, the truck would be 27 years old when it's been replaced.
Go ahead, Francois.
is he muted?
Go ahead, Heather.
She muted.
We are unable to hear at home.
Oh.
Did that shut off?
Oops,
Did someone kick it?
no, she was plugging in. No, can you hear us now?
Are
Can
we
you hear us
good
now?
now?
Great.
Look, ha ha ha.
What
Yeah, I
happened?
think it was unplugged.
Yeah, 'cause the light was on, well, the orange light's on the voice thing, it's orange light.
Oh, I see why. Peter, I don't wanna scoot back from you just for a second.
Oh, did I unplug it?
Oh, it's okay. It's because they ripped all the wiring down that I had. Okay,
I
we're
can
back.
hear you now.
Thank you. Sorry
I
about
must have got
that.
excited.
Francois, can you hear us?
Again,
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that.
All systems go.
You made us think we were losing our minds all of a
Going
sudden.
back, the goal of the Public Safety Building Committee is to be able to get going as soon as tenants begin moving out. And
But the main building has a tenant there for 5 years.
yes, but designing structures takes time.
I understand that, and I'm not, yeah.
Putting together.
that's all paper stuff, not actually touching it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then
No.
after that, you gotta get the money and you gotta actually construct it.
Yeah.
So you're talking 6
6
years
years out, yeah.
at minimum.
But the funding would need to be put together, but if we were looking to go that route, the latest we could start talking about funding that would be 1.5 to 2 years from now.
And I'm not saying,
And
yeah,
so
but,
then it's gonna be more money.
yeah,
than it
but
is
what I'm
right now.
saying is you're gonna have to, like, you're not gonna be able to be able to get a fire truck into that new structure,
3
even if
years.
everything goes correctly, 6 years.
Oh, right.
And I'm not opposed to the fire truck.
Yeah,
I
but I'm
mean-
just saying, that's 6 years. This lease is 7. And I know we'd have to go for the money before this lease, or whatever, excuse me, this loan, if it was a 7-year term and everything went swimmingly, it would be before that, but can we make that long with the trucks that we have?
No,
So here we are,
I think
it's
the
stuck
odd-
rock hard place.
that would be, that'd be a modern miracle right there. And that's why I'm here, because if you guys choose to go whatever way you wanna go, I just wanna make you aware that if, you know, 1.5 years from now or a couple weeks from now, cause I have been pushing for this truck since ARPA, whenever was the ARPA funding.
Yeah, 2020.
You know, and maybe it was on the capital plan, it was on the capital plan prior for that, but yeah, and so I've been going for funding for this truck since ARPA. And so I just wanna make it aware that, yes, this truck is on its last leg, so if it's pushed out until FY '28, or even
27.
further, well, on it says
No,
28,
it does
but it's
not.
27, but it's still,
Respectfully,
it's,
Chief, no, it does not. There was a typo
Well,
in
yeah.
FY '28, but it says FY '27 in the
Moved
actual
to
plan
27.
several times. Like
Yeah.
your staff and the union decided to go on the internet and publicly post
Oh,
that we
I-
moved it to FY '28, but that does not make it the case.
I saw it with 28, and
Yeah,
then there was
on
a
a
note
post
about
by your own
27,
staff.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that truck's a liability right now.
And just because it's moved here on this little form doesn't, again, we still don't have funding for it. It's still on a capital improvement plan that doesn't necessarily mean it's actually gonna happen then either. And that's my
And-
concern and my
And
worry.
I understand the issues with the money for this town, like nobody else. Been on the department 30 years, 24 full-time and 16 as a chief. I understand it's always money problems, it's never easy. As I said, it's not my job to finance this. It's my job to make you aware that this thing could go at any time. And putting it off is risky, considering it's already been put off multiple years. So if it does, 6 months from now, or a year from now, it breaks down at a fire, and somebody gets injured, somebody worse, or I can't even get out the door before a fire, then I'm not having a select board come to me and go, Chief, why did you, no, I've been asking for this thing for 6-7 years.
So that's all documented.
You know,
It's
so,
all
I know,
documented, yeah.
but I'm here to document it one more time, that the more and more, the more likely something's gonna happen. The truck's not getting better, it's not getting younger, it's getting more New England winters on it. So that's all I'm here to convey. The financial part of it, I don't care if you wanna convince Nate to go rob GF, you can get the funding for it.
Pretty sure
I'll look
that's not
the
gonna
other
work.
way, but I need to convey that this is a necessity for our department, and the truck can't keep getting pushed down the road. That's, or else we will be pushing it down the road.
Go ahead, Francois.
I just want to make a comment here, and that is that since I've been part of the CIPC, which is probably now, this is my 5th year, I think in one way or the other, a fire engine has been on the CIPC plan for years. And realistically speaking, this is never going to pass. We've never had that amount of money. So I think we really need to be very realistic that this is really not the right place for a fire engine replacement to be. So that's just my comment when it comes to the way you really need to look at the fire engine replacement. It really should not be part of the capital expenditure at the CIPC. And the reason is, again, that the town just does not have a CIPC budget that is rich enough to be able to support this year.
It's gonna come off and we have to just go for it.
I agree, and that's the reason that time and time again, and I told you this off the record, that there's never going to be
good
myself or a
There's never
prior
gonna
town
be the perfect
administrator
time to do
that's
this.
gonna come in and say, hey, you know what it's time for?
Fire truck.
And it's unfortunate, cause I do support public safety and I want to see everything be moved forward. I wish this town didn't kick a lot of the cans down the road that they did for 20 years. But here we are, we're gonna solve all of the problems. But I agree with Francois, and that's why it kept getting pushed by myself and by other town administrators in the past. The capital improvement plan as written, as proposed, as outlined in a policy of 6% of the operating budget is never going to be a place to fund a full-blown fire truck.
Can we take this thing?
Especially whereas there are hesitancies regarding debt exclusions.
I think we have to fight it and try for it though. Because I think we're at a point that public safety, the same with the building, it's one of those things like if we don't move forward, somebody is gonna get hurt, somebody's gonna die. The fire truck won't start, we won't, like the same thing with the building, we wouldn't have a place to go. Like it's like all the same crap time and time again, and how many times we have to keep talking about this until we actually try to do something about it.
So it needs to come off here, go for a debt exclusion, that's what we need to do to get this truck?
This plan won't be able to fund it.
Because they can't fund it.
Well, quick point, if I may quickly interject here. The last fire truck, I believe that went through a debt exclusion, right? We had X number of years that we had to pay for it.
No,
Am I correct on that?
no, I don't believe so. I believe it was a 10-year loan. Our engine one. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know it wasn't a debt exclusion.
And a debt exclusion and debt can be part of the capital plan. It just has to be strategic. And to be completely honest, I was...
Fire engine one was never part of CIPC, right?
I believe it was. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't remember going to a town meeting or a town vote for a debt exclusion for that truck. I forget things, but it wasn't that long ago. I believe it was that example that I gave earlier. Engine 3 was on the books for a 10-year loan, and then, or maybe it was a little longer, I'm not sure, so don't quote me on this. Maybe it was a 12-year loan, but I believe Engine 1 and Engine 3 overlapped a year or two, and then it continued on for a 10-year loan.
Okay.
I wanna see some options of how we can get a truck. And whether
And
it's a
the
debt
truck's still
exclusion
2
or
years
a
away,
long,
right?
like
For a
what,
truck, 3
Yeah,
years.
if you're gonna have a truck like
can't
that, a
keep
pumper
pushing
tanker,
this
it's
off,
gonna
and
be,
the closer we get
yeah, probably
to
2.5,
fixing the
2.5.
building,
We're in
the
trouble.
harder it will be. Because not, like if we get too close to fixing the building dollar amount, that's gonna be a tough sell to get both of them together. If we try to work on this now and see if we can figure out something, whether it's a debt exclusion or a loan or a lease or something, to kind of get it in now, so that way we're not in a safety bind. And then when we get the new building, then things will get a lot easier with getting fire trucks because we won't have to special order stupid shit. But right now, we're in a safety bind, and the closer we get to doing this building, I think the harder it's gonna be to get the loans to get, or whatever we're gonna
Correct.
do with this fire truck together, to pair up. And trust me, I don't wanna spend any money either, but we have to. We're at,
I'm exactly with you.
Yeah.
The reason this was pushed off is because the conversation moved to FY '27.
Yeah.
Was a debt exclusion conversation.
yeah,
Like, it was not, like, we were never, ever, ever going to be able to put a $500,000 or $1 million or a
Mhm.
$1.1 million
Just in our-
truck
yeah.
in the plan
No.
and say, hey, free cash. let's go.
Yeah.
Unless we strategically say,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to take 35% of free
Mhm.
cash for the next 5 years and squirrel it away for X, which could do.
But we
It's
can't
not
wait 5 years.
necessarily best practice,
No.
because there are other ways, debt exclusions, leases, and I can go in, if it's brought up today that you guys want a list of 2 or 3 opportunities to get to fire truck in FY '26, I will get you that information.
that is my, yes,
Yeah.
I would like that.
You gotta look at some longer term leases, maybe if they're out
Yeah.
there, 12-year, 10-year, 13-year, whatever.
And-
If we're getting 20 years out of a truck, you gotta do a longer lease,
For the
obviously.
good of the order, because I feel like I sounded sour about certain things, there's a $1 million lease on this paper that I didn't bring with me today. So I'm clearly thinking about fire trucks.
Well, we gotta do something, cause we can't keep pushing this down. It's not gonna make it to the new building, it's not going to. We're gonna be up Schitt's Creek, like severely.
We're up Schitt's Creek now.
I know, but
Even
all the
worse.
paddles are gone, you know?
Yeah. And the boat's sinking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
boat's got a hole,
Yeah.
we're
So-
capsizing.
Well, we gotta get off the pot, pardon my
Yeah.
language.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
May I request a tabling of the capital improvement plan?
Sorry.
Until the second meeting in January? I'm not gonna be at the first meeting in January. I will
You're
request,
not?
no, I'm getting my appendix up.
Oh. What? You don't wanna come,
Uh,
via Zoom?
Patricia and my wife said I can't come on
She
Zoom.
said you can't come.
I said he can't
Alright.
come. I don't want him. He's like, oh, I'm gonna do it remotely. And I was
Okay,
like, not on
okay,
morphine, you're not.
Okay, that'll be a good meeting.
It'd be
So
fine.
that- yeah,
And I will invite the 3 members of the capital improvement planning committee so we can have a conversation and get forward with a capital improvement plan that it can be recommended by the select board without having to go away and go through a secondary process for 2.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta get a truck on order here, like, quick.
Well, there's no
You-
way
we
until
gotta-
Well, you understand what I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I really didn't know how bad this truck was, so.
They're not good. It's been bad for a long time. And it's as time goes on, it's just like if you're driving a beater, like how long can you drive that Honda Civic until it totally just falls right apart and it ain't gonna start no more?
Alright, I think we beat this horse to death. I mean, Nate, do you need an answer from
Mr. Chair,
somebody?
can I get a motion to
I already said-
allow me
Hold
to
on,
table
hold on, hold on.
the,
okay,
Motion to.
table
we have a
the-
motion to table the discussion of the capital improvement plan,
and schedule a
specifically
joint
of
meeting
the fire engine in terms of
CIP.
tabling it to the second meeting in January.
and
So-
scheduling a joint meeting with the capital improvement planning committee for said meeting.
So moved,
As a joint meeting with the capital improvement committee, okay?
still so moved.
Is there a second?
Go ahead, Heather.
Second.
Okay, I was gonna say second for discussion, but, just, one follow-up on that. So we did pull up, took me a little while, DLS rearranged their piece, but it looks like, and it doesn't tell you the amounts on this, which is stinky. On the Division of Local Services page relative to the debt exclusions, we did purchase and equip a new fire truck in 2017 via that method. So I don't know how big of a truck that was or anything else, but I know the question came up as to how we did it per se. We also did a couple of fire pieces of equipment, but that was back in 1990. So that's all. I just wanted to add that so I didn't forget about it.
Well, okay, so, any further discussion on the motion?
Is there anything else that, do we want to, I'm gonna fund the grant money from somewhere else. Is there anything else that people had questions about while I go back and smooth this out?
No, mine was the moving of the big pieces. Everything else.
And to be honest, this is going to result in me coming back with a third sheet of the capital improvement plan that is a debt schedule.
That is a what?
That is a debt schedule.
Yeah.
Which is something that I aimed wholeheartedly to avoid.
Yeah.
But that can be a conversation for later. And it's not like the capital improvement plan needs to be, like, yeah, everything is nice to do early. We vote on this in June.
Mhm.
Like, it's December. Like,
Yep.
we'll,
No, we'll get there from here. I just, yeah, like I said, it was the moving of the big pieces, because that's what harms us in the long run. It's pushing more big things off.
Natina Steiger, FaceTime video.
Okay, anything else on that?
no.
Any other? All in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Table. Motion is passed. So
Mr.
we'll,
Chair, I also request that we table items 12A, B, and C. Everything except for the acceptance of the mega insurance grant and the consent agenda.
okay, wait a second. 12, A, B, and C.
It's 8:30 PM and you guys have an executive session.
So I took a nap, that's why I took a nap.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I was considering trying to get rid of some of this, too, for the same reason.
Everything but the consent agenda and item 9A1.
Okay, so,
And that can even be part of the consent agenda. I just want, the reason I kept it separately is because I wanted to thank Patricia for applying for the mega safety grant. We're going to be getting new ergonomic chairs, a stretching class, and mats for standing.
Like behind us.
When is the stretching class?
That is gonna be probably sometime in January. I just have to find a yoga studio that is willing to work with the parameter, the space that
Mhm.
we have most invite the team building to the yoga studio, and I would prefer to just do it here. It's more about stretching, like after spending long hours hunched over a desk and pulling out your back and your hips and your,
We
you know,
need
just making
standing
sure.
desks.
Need
We have-
standing,
we have standing
we
desks.
have standing desks, but
And the town will accommodate any request for standing desks. That is part of a longstanding.
stretching, just also, you know, taking that time to just step away from your computer for a bit and, you know, not
So you
get
can
so
see again.
involved.
okay, if I could interrupt this.
Of course, sorry.
Well, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
That we wanna try to make part of this motion to, basically postpone for the,
I don't think you need to do anything, Mr. Chair.
I
If
just
so-
can't.
If so, could move a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of November 18th, 2024, and the appointment of Jessica Hall to the Parks Commission with the support of the Parks Commission Chair, with a term to expire at the annual town election of 2025, and adding to the consent agenda the acceptance, authorizing me to accept the mega insurance safety grant for the amount of $3,990.
So moved.
So moved.
Too late, BJ.
motion made.
Second.
Actually, who, no.
I made it,
You
she
made the
seconded it.
motion, okay. And second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Mr. Chair, I respectfully ask that you allow the board to table the remainder of the agenda items with the exception of the executive session to
Yep.
the second meeting in January.
We're doing anything the first meeting? in
That's,
January? We're just gonna skip it.
I'm gonna talk to him Well, you guys can talk about that right now if you want. Cause I won't be here, Peter won't be here.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's
Something
let's deal with that motion first, then we'll, before we adjourn, we'll talk about the January sixth meeting. Alright, so we have a motion then to postpone the remainder of the items on our agenda with the exception of the executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second, any discussion on that particular aspect? Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion is passed. Now, before we adjourn to the executive session, everybody's calendar for January sixth is, anyone who can, you're gonna be away,
Yes, sir.
and who else was, and
So, Mr.
you were questionable.
No, I'm 100%
Oh.
not gonna be here.
Yeah, oh,
I'm getting
definitely,
my
okay.
appendix out. My question there is going to be if there was a feasible date to have a meeting at a different time. Because we do need to have an executive session about marijuana stuff. We can meet on the lion's share of everything else. I will need likely a little more time than that for the capital stuff.
But before
But-
January 21st, though.
Yeah, before January 20th.
When are you back? Peter, when would you?
I don't see a calendar. I don't have my phone. It's January sixth, I don't even know what day that is.
Well,
That's a Monday.
It's gonna be a Monday, cause it's a
January
board
sixth is a
meeting,
Monday,
yeah.
so
What's the following Monday?
13th.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'd probably
I
back
can't do the 13th. I have
Friday,
my own meeting.
Saturday, so.
Okay.
Anytime after, so somewhere between maybe the 14th and 21st.
Well, the 21st, we have a meeting anyway. This was to have this particular
have-
meeting
Meeting on the
Oh.
20th, don't we?
Okay.
because
Do
of
we
the
want
marijuana
to do
issue.
one 2 weeks from tonight?
Oh, it's Martin Luther King Day, that's my.
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks from
No,
tonight,
hold on, I spoke.
that'd be December 30th,
What's wrong with a week from tonight?
the 23rd,
Yeah.
it's like right before Christmas.
Yeah.
I kinda pushing close to Christmas. I could do it, but I'd be remote.
January 30?
December
I can do
30th?
January 30.
December 30, sorry.
Yeah, sure, even
December.
better.
What day is that?
It's
It's a
2 weeks
Monday.
from tonight, 'cause
December 30th.
December's one of those weird
What day
months
is, when is
that
that, on
has.
Monday?
It's a Monday,
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Can you?
2
how's your
weeks from now?
schedule?
Yeah, I'll be around.
December has 5 Mondays.
Can
It's
you
one of
meet the
those
30th?
months.
Okay.
So we technically, our next meeting would be January 6th, 3 weeks from
So if we cancel that and can we do that on the 30th? Is that what we're talking, December 30th?
Chris can make it.
Yeah, I can make it.
Heather, can you make the 30th?
Yep, she's got thumbs up on my camera.
And
Oh, okay.
we'll do a.
Peter, can you make it?
As far as I know, I'd have to go look at my
Can you
phone,
make
but
it?
I'm pretty sure I'm available, cause I'm not
And-
going away till after that.
Okay, so tentatively, let's say the 30th then.
Tentatively say the 30th,
Yeah.
2 weeks from this evening.
Yep,
And we
that'll be
will
our next
tentatively
meeting.
put all of the tabled items with the exception of capital, unless I can miraculously pull that together.
Don't kill
And-
Well,
yourself.
no, I wouldn't
Get it.
load it again, because again, you said the key issue was the marijuana
And
thing, right?
without going too far,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman and I are meeting with legal counsel on that matter tomorrow.
Mhm.
So we will likely have an update on that matter to be made in executive session
Mhm.
at that time. If not, maybe we don't hold the tentative meeting.
Okay,
Like, and,
but at
So,
least you know,
the 30th is tentative then.
yeah. But
just hold the date for now.
Okay, are we clear on that, everybody? Well, with that in mind, we are now, could we get a motion, I'll read it, a motion to adjourn from the open meeting to move into the executive session for Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with a non-union personnel, town administrator contract renewal.
So moved.
With the sole intention of coming out of executive session back to open session, simply to adjourn.
So moved. You paused, sorry.
Motion made.
Second.
This is a roll call vote, okay, Peter,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Jeff, yes.